So my name is Nicole Fuller, and as Joe said, I am a registered dietitian with the Valley Hospital. I've worked, just a little bit about me. I've worked as a dietitian now for well over 20 years. I've worked in numerous areas of nutrition, long-term care, acute care, dialysis, outpatient services, and with the community department, doing presentations like this in person and virtually. So I'm so happy you're able to join us. I honestly cannot believe that we are already discussing the holidays, but here we go. Halloween is in less than 2 weeks, and right after that, it all, I guess, is uphill or downhill from here. So without further ado, we're going to start the presentation. Okay, so I wanted to just give a brief overview of what you can expect that we're going to be discussing through this presentation. We're going to talk about strategies for weight maintenance, which I bet a lot of people are interested in. We're going to discuss portion sizes and how to control them, what you can do to use your actual plates or serving dishes as a means to portion control your food. We're going to talk a little bit about exercise, and I'm going to give you plenty of tips towards the end, as well as discussing a few recipe swaps you can do to make your dish a little healthier or lower in calories or fat. Okay, so I think the first thing that it's important to remember or remind ourselves is that while food is heavily associated with the holidays, because it's just everywhere, it makes it hard to stick to our goals and our healthy eating routines. We have to kind of try and remember that it doesn't have to be that way. We can, flip the script on that and change our mindset, right? Food doesn't have to be everything during the holidays. We can make it through the holidays. I'm 100% believe that everybody on this presentation can make it through the holidays without losing track of your healthy lifestyle or your goals, and that you can do it. Just first, we have to separate the fact that the holidays do not always have to be about food. I mean, of course, we all like to indulge a little bit in the holidays, those special treats that only come out this time of year, but remember, one does not have to equal the other. I really also want to focus on being realistic around the holidays. Now is not the time to think about trying to lose weight, okay? We want to focus more on maintaining our weight rather than trying to lose weight during the holidays, okay? Maintenance of your present weight, of your current weight, is a big enough challenge during the holiday season. So I'd like to say, don't try to set yourself up for failure by trying to make some unrealistic goals for yourself. How about you just set a goal that up until the end of the holiday season, I'm going to maintain my current weight. I plan on not having to go on a diet in January. Instead of saying, oh, in January, I'll just lose the weight that I've gained during the holidays. How about we say, I'm not going to have to diet when January comes, just think that's how it's going to be this year. So how do we focus on maintaining our weight during the holiday? Well, it should be known that on average, many people gain anywhere from 1 to 5 pounds over the holidays, okay? 1 to 5 pounds. So just maintaining your weight you're already winning, right? So let's put it in that perspective. Most people gain 1 to 5 pounds on average. If you don't gain any weight, you're already ahead of the game, okay? So 1 to 5 pounds on average. A lot of times, the weight that you put on during the holidays doesn't come off, okay? Or say you gained 5 pounds over the holidays, but only a couple pounds came off. You didn't lose all 5 pounds. that accumulates year after year. So say you gain a pound on average every holiday and it doesn't come off. After 10 years, you're already 10 pounds up, you know, 2 pounds or 20 pounds up in 10 years, you know. So the winter holiday months, they represent a period of just increased risk of weight gain. So focusing on maintaining that weight may be more realistic and not as stressful, okay? All right, so, you know, some general, maybe not rules, but maybe some basic guidelines for the holiday season. And, you know, during this presentation, if you just come away with one bit of information that works for you, I'm happy about that. You know, some of these you might think that won't work for me, but I want you to come away from this thinking, oh, I could do that, or I could do this, you know. So these are some general guidelines that I'd like people to consider. During the holidays, outside of periods of, you know, the festivities, try to just continue eating and buying healthy food that you might normally buy, okay? Also, try and stick to a regular schedule of meals. You know, if you're normally eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even if you have an event to go to that day, continue to eat. You know, say your event is in the evening, continue to eat on a regular schedule. Don't say, oh, I'm going to skip breakfast and lunch and just go overboard at the event. It usually backfires. You end up overeating, overindulging. So I say be prepared, eat on a regular schedule, and you're likely to stick to more of a plan when you're at the event, okay? And if you're someone that exercises, and you have an usual exercise regimen, keep it up. This is the time when, you know, a lot of stress is happening during the holidays, and exercise is a great way to help reduce your stress. And when it comes to your favorite holiday treats, I would not one dietitian to tell you to not eat it. I will just say, why don't we enjoy it? We savor it. You know, say someone made your favorite pie or your favorite side dish or your favorite appetizer. You can have it, but think about portion sizes and think about really enjoying that food and savoring what you're eating, you know, how the texture is, how the flavor is, okay? Instead of, you know, taking the biggest portion you can. For those of us that work outside of the home, and people are definitely going back into the office more and more so, think about like around the holidays, what happens in the office, right? You have clients bringing you candy or food, or customers, or just your coworkers are bringing in food, and it ends up in the lounge area or the break room, right? So there's all this access. Um, and say you have a coworker that has a dish, a candy dish on their desk, and every time you walk by, you grab one and you think, oh, it's not that bad. I'm just going to have one chocolate here or there, or one cookie. It's the holidays. Remember, even if it's a small thing, those things add up over time. So, you know, with Halloween coming up, they sell the mini candy bars. So just say a mini Snickers has about 100 calories. And maybe you have 3 one day, 3 the next, 1 the next. There you go. You've had 10 already. That's about 1,000 calories. That can add up to, you know, half a pound a week of gaining weight. So even the little things add up. One thing you can do, maybe, if you do eat something out of a wrapper at work, eat it. Keep the wrapper on your desk to remind you how many you've eaten, right? That could be a way for you to kind of calculate, okay, I've had one, you know, one might be enough for today. So I mentioned that I was going to talk a little bit about some plate hacks. So when eating at an event, a celebration, a party during the holiday season, whatever holiday it is or event it is, aim to eat all of your meals or snacks off of a plate, or if appropriate, a bowl, okay? Instead of mindlessly eating or grabbing, you know, how easy it is when you're standing near a table full of food to just eat and pick and munch while you're socializing. It's better to put it on a plate. Putting it on a plate is a better way for you to keep track of your portions, more so than mindlessly popping food in your mouth, right? So you get your plate, sometimes I even recommend getting a smaller plate, maybe like an appetizer plate, putting what you plan to eat on that plate, visualize it. This way you know what you're going to be eating, right? It's not to say you're not going to go back for more, but this way it's not like you're like, wow, I ate a lot of chips, but I can't remember how many chips I had. If you put it on a plate, you can see, okay, this is the portion I'm having. And you tend to eat less when you do this. So, you know, I also like to say prioritize your favorites over the holiday season. We all have them. Um, you know, and the more variety we have at any event, the more likely we're going to eat more. So you can decrease the amount you are eating at a party or an event by picking, let's say, 3 to 4 of your favorites, right? They're your absolute favorites at this certain holiday or whatever event you're going to. So, but pick 3 to 4. You go, you scope out what is available. Maybe there's 8 things there that you just absolutely love. Maybe you just pick 3 or 4 of that and forego the rest. Maybe at the next party, some of the same favorites will be there, and you can choose the other ones. Okay. If you know that you have 3 or 4 events to go to in 1 week, or maybe it's even just 1 or 2 events, pick one of those events. This is another thing you could do. Pick one of those events that you'll splurge more, and then be more conscious and scale back on the other event. Okay, so keeping track of your events and splurging on one, holding back on the other. That's another tip or trick that you can do at some of your events. Now, I want to talk about some tips for when you get to the party or the event. And, now that restrictions have eased up, people are getting back together more so. And I feel like things are actually parties are being planned more now than they were before because people miss that, right? So, one thing I recommend people to do sometime is to eat a snack before you leave home, right? Preferably a healthy one that might fill you up without providing like a ton of calories. But and it might seem counterintuitive because you're like, well, I'm going to a party. Why would I eat something? But if you show up starving, chances are you're going to choose foods that aren't the healthiest, that aren't the best for you, and you're going to tend to overeat. Okay. And just like I said before, kind of survey the table, scope out things, what you like, you know, maybe pick the 3 or 4 things that you're going to choose for that party. Try not to graze. It's so easy to do that. I mean, trust me, I've done it myself. I don't always go to the party and get the plate. I don't always go having had a little snack before. So it's easy when you're hungry to go there and just graze and pick off, what's available. Get a plate, put the food on the plate, and eat what you've chosen. Another tip is try not to hang around the food, right? Have you noticed that sometimes when you're hanging out by the table with all the snacks on it, you're just sitting there eating, you're talking to someone, you're not even realizing you tend to overeat. So my advice is don't hang out by the food, get what you came for, and find somewhere else to sit. Oh, okay. So hors d'oeuvres. Among, I like to say among one of the most healthiest starters or d'oeuvres that you can have are raw vegetables, right? And listen, I get it. It might not be the most exciting thing, but maybe you put some healthier dip on there. You could do some guacamole, maybe some hummus. You can add some olives, do some feta cheese with the olives. You could do roasted vegetables on there. But a lot of times I will bring sort of a platter like that with some vegetables, some healthier dips. If you snack on something like broccoli, cauliflower, any of the vegetables, they have more fiber in them. They fill you up and keep you feeling fuller longer. And add that with some healthier dips like guacamole or hummus is also good because it's also providing you with nutrition. Okay. It might not be the most exciting thing, but a lot of times that's one thing I'll offer to bring to a party, right? Choosing dips wisely, right? So I mentioned hummus is a good one. Guacamole is another one. You can substitute, like if you make a ranch dip, you can get the powdered ranch, and instead of using like sour cream, you could use low fat plain Greek yogurt, all right, that cuts out on the calories and lower in fat. You want to watch out for a lot, like, a lot of cheeses. I say, cheese is okay in moderation, but the cheeses, the sauces, mayonnaise, and the fatty meats is where you're going to add up on those calories and fat. Now, on the other token, you don't want to, you want to try and grab some vegetables for the hors d'oeuvres, but you don't just want to focus, think, oh, I can't eat a lot of fat, so I better just stick with crackers or, pretzels because they're lower in fat. Eating the simple carbohydrates, they don't make you feel so full. So don't totally avoid anything that has fat in it. Guacamole has some great healthy fat. It also has some fiber. So, try to balance it. When there are carbohydrates available, like crackers, things like that, choose ones that appear to have more whole grains, they're darker in color, or you can even bring them with you if you make a platter with some crackers on it. So when stacking, stick with carbs that contain vitamins and fiber. Like fruit is another example of a carbohydrate rather than those with minimal nutritional value, like pretzels. Okay, and when I'm talking about healthy fat sources, think avocados and some healthy nuts like walnuts or almonds. So you can even make a platter of that. Some whole grain crackers, some healthy fats like maybe guacamole, have some nuts on there, and that could be something that you bring. Also, during the holidays, it's really important to look out for you. I mean, it is a stressful time of year. We're trying to think of everybody else around us and in our lives, but also look out for you. So when you go to a party, a celebration, anything, and someone offers you something, whether it's food or a drink, you're not hungry or you don't want it, you're not being rude if you just simply say no thank you. Don't feel like you need to be bullied into trying something or eating something. If you don't want something, don't be afraid to say no. And also, it is simply okay to not eat everything on your plate, right? We don't want to be a member of the clean plate club anymore. That's in the past. So if you get a plate of hors d'oeuvres or whatever, don't feel like you're being rude by leaving something on it if you're truly not hungry or if you didn't like it. It's okay not to finish it. We don't want, it's okay if there's food left on the plate. So host and guest ideas, it kind of is almost like the same thing. As a host, if you're hosting something, and I always say include some kind of nutritious or low calorie foods. Again, the vegetable platter as an hors d'oeuvre. Or on the flip side, as a guest, ask your host, what can I bring? Can I bring a vegetable platter? These are just some things that you can think about. Or there's so many websites out there, all recipes, cooking light, that you can look for substitutions to bring as a dish. So we kind of touched on exercise in the beginning, but don't forget about exercise during the holidays. If you're someone like me who usually exercises, has an exercise regimen, I highly recommend to try and continue it as much as possible. Exercise is a great way to manage the stress of the holidays, as well as maintaining your weight, help, keeping your metabolism up. With that being said, be gentle with yourself. The holidays are crazy, so if you can't get your exercise in, be patient with yourself, be gentle with yourself. Try and maybe work it in another time. Be sneaky about it. With Thanksgiving coming up, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, maybe after the meal, you go for a walk around the block. I remember growing up, we would do that quite often. Or when the family got together and there was lots of kids, we play a football game after the meal or before the meal. So you can sneak it in and include other people with you. And lots of times people want to join. So it's a win-win situation. So Yes, there are traditional dishes and 100% traditional recipes that no one ever wants to change, but it is okay to try and change them. Maybe you want to experiment before you bring the dish or make the dish for whatever event you're going to, but you can certainly try and swap out some high calorie ingredients for lower calorie ones, like low fat cheese instead of regular full fat cheese. Like I said before, using Greek yogurt versus sour cream is a great swap, and most people do not cannot tell the difference. If there's an option where mustard works rather than mayo, you could do it maybe, little sandwiches or something. Um, or if you're using mayonnaise, use the light version rather than the full fat version. A lot of times in baking, you could substitute oil for applesauce, or say if the recipe calls for 1 cup of vegetable oil, do a half a cup of vegetable oil and a half a cup of unsweetened applesauce. You'll be amazed at how moist the recipe will turn out, I promise you. And you can also use something like Smart Balance. Most grocery stores have it versus butter. You can decrease the amounts of these higher calorie ingredients by about 25% by swapping some of these things, ingredients out. So I wanted to give some more makeover tips, especially something like a pumpkin pie recipe. It usually calls for at least 1 cup of cream or evaporated whole milk and 2 eggs. You can actually use evaporated skim milk and 3 egg whites, and you're going to be cutting up to 300 calories and 30 to 38 grams of fat. When it comes to rolls, try and get the brown and serve bread rolls instead of the higher fat, croissant rolls or the crescent rolls. You can cut the calories up about over 1,000 calories and 100 grams of fat per dozen. Those crescent rolls are hot, very high in fat and a lot more calories. So just getting the regular brown and serve rolls is a better idea. You can use light cream cheese instead of regular cream cheese in some of the dips and spreads, as well as cheesecake, to cut down on fat and calories. More tips: fat-free sour cream. Use it for dips and spreads and potato dishes. It can cut over 300 calories, 35 grams of fat per cup of sour cream, okay? Another thing you could do, like I mentioned 2 or 3 times before, is switching and using plain Greek yogurt instead of sour cream if you don't want to use the fat-free sour cream. And switching to reduced fat cheese. It doesn't have to be fat-free cheese, just even the reduced fat cheese. You can try the Laughing Cow that's pictured here on this slide. It's very good. And again, here, my favorite, Greek yogurt. You can use it in dips, many ways. It can cut over 1,000 calories and over 130 grams of, 132 grams of fat per cup of mayo, okay? More tips. When it comes to sauces, that's where you're going to get a lot of the extra calories. Sauces, dressings, gravies. When it comes to putting something on maybe your turkey, instead of going with the gravy, use cranberry sauce. It's naturally fat-free, and if you're making homemade cranberry sauce, it's it can be nutritious. For vegetables, replace some of the bread or higher fat carbohydrate dishes on your plate with vegetables, okay? It's a great way to get some low calories, things that are going to fill you up, okay? Cocoa. So when your holiday baking recipes call for chocolate, you can substitute 3 tablespoons of cocoa for every 1 ounce of chocolate in most recipes, and it will turn out just fine. Again, if you have a favorite recipe and you're worried about changing it, I always say try it at home first before bringing it anywhere else. And evaporated milk. You can use evaporated milk that in a recipe that might call for cream and cut calories and fat that way as well. And when in doubt, use the plate method strategy, okay? So basically what you could do, you take your plate, you cut it in fourths. A quarter of your plate is going to be some healthy, colorful vegetables. A quarter of your plate can be fruit. A quarter of your plate is the grains or the carbohydrate, the starch, cereals, grains, pastas, rice. That's where the that area goes, and then lean protein, okay? So if you just visualize that plate and try to stick to that as much as possible, you're already step in the right direction with your goal of maintaining your weight through the holiday season. And we can't really talk about the holidays without mentioning or bringing up alcohol, because a lot of times it's often served at the celebrations we're going to. I always recommend, drink in moderation, and that means 1 drink for women, 2 drinks for men. And you could see here what is the equivalent of a drink: 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, and 1.5 ounces of liquor. Okay. And again, keeping the condiments and sauces on the side, adding them yourself as much as possible, will also cut down on a lot of calories. You can eat fewer calories and stick to your goal of maintaining your weight through the holiday by choosing more fruit, vegetables, whole grains, choosing cooking methods that are lower in fat and calories. So baking, broiling, steaming, grilling, choosing low-fat dairy options over the full-fat dairy options, and sticking to lean proteins. Or if you're having poultry, remove the skin. The skin is very high in calories and fat. The dressings is where it's going to add a lot of calories, the gravies, creams, sauces, if things are fried, and cheese. Those are some things that are going to add a lot more calories. I always like to say, with all that being said, with all the tips on how to try to manage our weight during the holidays and make better choices, overeating one day is not going to make or break your eating plan. It really does take days of overeating to put actual weight on, okay? So if you overindulge at the one party, put it behind you, refocus on how you're going to go moving forward, okay? It's the consistent overeating from now until the end of the year that puts us in that gaining 1 to 5 pounds during the holidays, which we don't want to be in, okay? Your diet is not going to be ruined by one piece of pie. It's the consistent overeating of it, okay? And with that being said, I'd like to open it up for any questions anybody might have. And again, I cannot believe we're talking about the holidays, yet here we are.
Thank you, Nicole, for a great presentation. We will give you guys a few minutes to type in any questions that you may have, and we can point them in the direction of Nicole. So we'll just stand by, see if you guys have any questions for a few minutes. All right, I think we have a quiet crowd here because I'm not seeing any questions. All right. Well, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you don't have any questions, you can always email us if you have any additional questions. Valley also offers outpatient nutrition counseling. As Nicole said in the beginning, she is one of our outpatient dietitians. So you can always schedule a session to meet with her. Most of the time, services are covered by insurance to meet with a dietitian, and we can discuss a host of various issues and concerns that you may be having. So if you are interested in, making an appointment or hearing more details, you can always reach out to us by calling 201-634-5371. That's our main number, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I'm still not seeing any questions. So I would like to say thank you to Nicole. Thank you to the attendees for joining us. If you do have any questions for the presenter, for Nicole, we encourage you to email us, or like I said, you can give us a call. Other than that, again, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.